Okay, we'll call the Raymore Parks and Rec Board meeting for August 22nd, 2023 to order. I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Member Mapes?
Present.
Member Cooper?
Present.
Member Clark?
Present.
Member Troutman?
Present.
Member Manson?
Present.
Member Collier?
Present.
Member Scott?
Present.
Okay, thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Not seeing any personal appearances, we'll move to item number 5, consent agenda. I will ask for a motion to approve Park Board minutes for both July 25th, 2023 and August 8th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Bill?
yes, make a motion to approve the minutes from those 2 meetings.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, hearing a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Next, we'll move to staff reports. Director?
Thank you, sir. I will ask Superintendent Brennan for a recreation report.
Thank you, sir. Park Chair, members of the board, I have submitted a written report, but there are a few items I'd like to highlight. First being this past Friday was our annual mini mud run held out at Hawk Ridge Park. And I'm not sure we could have asked for better weather out there. Wasn't too hot like today, and we didn't have to deal with any inclement weather such as rain, lightning, or thunder. I do want to shout out our volunteers, including the Optimist Shelter or Optimist Club and the Community Bake of Raymore that helped with guidance of the course as well as registration. And also a shout out to Steve's crew since we had to alter the course a little bit this year and we added a new, I don't know what the technical term is, well, obstacle, yes, but, I received nothing but compliments, especially at the starters line where I was held with all the children that participated. In all, we had 165 that registered before the event, and then we had 20 walk-ups the day of that registered then and there. Also, this evening at Centerview is our first beginners square dance lessons. Those are held on Tuesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. And right now we have 32 people that are registered. Compared to last year, we had 22, so a nice little increase from last year. And then also, or last, I'd like to just point out our athletic coordinator, Nick Cook, has been hard at work. Last week, he held coaches meetings for the fall sports season, and then he's got scheduling meetings this week as well. This is actually the first year since I've been here. Baseball and softball is not the biggest fall sport that we have, much to Steve's excitement. Soccer is actually the biggest sport. We've got 297 kids currently registered, and that doesn't include the 14 that we have in the social soccer sport. So all in all, we've got over 300, and then I'd also like to point out our flag football program. Last fall, we saw an increase. We had a total of 170 kids registered, which was the highest we've had since we've introduced the program. Last spring, we saw an increase to 190 kids, which then was the highest we've seen. This fall, we've got 221 kids signed up in our fall flag football program. So that's the program that we just see getting bigger and bigger each year. With that, that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Chris?
How many attended the mud run?
In all, we had 165 that pre-registered and then 20 walk-ups day of.
Anyone else? What was, and maybe Mr. Rulo could answer this. What was the temperature when it started, roughly, out there for the mud run? You didn't look? You didn't write it down?
No, I did not write it down, but I would say it was a comfy 85.
Okay, that's pretty good for being warm. That's pretty good numbers coming out. That's where I was going. Next time I'll clue you into where I'm looking. Anyone else? Okay, Director?
Thanks, sir. I'll ask Mr. Rulo to give us a Parks report.
Thanks, sir. I also submitted a written report. Just wanted to key on a couple things. Just kind of wanted to let everybody know kind of what's going on this week with the extreme heat that's going on. Staff, our crew is coming in. We're doing as much as we can outside between 7 in the morning and noon. When we're mowing, they're instructed, mow till you can. If you can't make it till noon, come back. Then we stay inside to do other things where they can hit the AC more often than what they can when they're out on the mowers. So what they're doing in the morning, though, we're preparing the game fields, all of Mr. Brennan's sports, and start here within the next couple weeks, 2-3 weeks. So we're preparing the soccer fields, baseball fields, and that's about it. Also, what's going on, I've been getting some of our old equipment ready for the auction, getting it rounded up, getting all the asset numbers back to City Hall here so we can get that ready to roll, and hopefully get some of our old equipment in the auction and get some money back. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Superintendent Rulo? Do you remember how hot it was during the mud run?
Not sure, but I think it was like 85.
Perfect, thank you. Director?
All right, thank you. I did not submit a written report because I didn't want to. So I have a whole list of things here that I will provide you now. And my written report will be in the city council packet if you're interested in seeing it next week. First of all, projects currently underway. The RAC, we have our weekly Thursday meetings with the RAC. It's, if you've been out there, you see they're working and stuff. A big thing right now going on is moving utility lines so they can start digging out footings and pouring footings, so that when you're waiting on utility companies, it kind of slows you down. So we're in a little bit of a waiting period, but I think today and tomorrow they were supposed to turn off the gas, relocate the gas line, and so we should see some progress moving forward after the end of this week on that. Also in that particular area, the American Ramp Company has mobilized, and they are began tearing out the skate park areas that are identified, and should have that done within a few weeks. It seems to be going fairly well at this point right now with that project. The playground at Recreation Park, one thing I wanted to ask the board about, it is finished. So if you go out there, the playground is done. It's been opened for public use. What we have done is basically put off a final inspection until later this fall. We want to see how the poured in place rubber, the seams mold and form together, make sure they don't separate during the heat and stuff like that. We do have a warranty on it, so we can call and check on it, but this was actually the company's idea, is to let's let it set and get some action on there and see how it responds and whether it holds in place, and if not, they'll come back and redo it. So that is open. What I was curious from the park board's perspective is, do we want to do a ribbon cutting with this, or do we just want to do an announcement and open it? How we want to approach that? We're not really in a time crunch and making a decision, but we can discuss it and schedule something for an upcoming meeting and kind of incorporate that if the board wants to do that. So you can just talk to the chair and he can let me know how we want to proceed. This past week, I worked with CFS engineers that are the design and engineering firm for Hawk Ridge Park, and we basically completed an application, submitted a grant with the Department of Conservation. If you remember, we did the restrooms there and the boat dock and stuff a few years ago. Same type of program with them, so we submitted a grant to help fund some of the east side projects. That's a short turnaround grant, so we should know by 1st of October what we received on that. The other big stuff going on is last night the budget was presented to the city council, and main highlights for the budget in the capital improvement program, no changes were made to what we presented. So the basketball court, the pickleball court, and the plaza pavilion area at Hawk Ridge Park are in. 3 other major projects that affect parks would be, that is not paid by parks, it's paid out of transportation or general fund projects, are trail replacements. So last year, the city council gave $150,000 a year for the next 5 years for trail replacement. This year, by the end of this year, the area at Rec Park from kind of the southeast side corner that floods all the time, all the way up to the new playground will be taken out and repoured. That is a project currently under bid. The next portion of that will be working with Public Works, so it's kind of a Parks Public Works project because it's in trails, even though it's not all within a park trail. But the trail on Madison from the roundabout up to Lucy Webb all the way to Fox Ridge Drive. So the entire Lucy Webb Madison Trail, that's asphalt that was poured back in 2007, that is scheduled to be in next year's budget completely removed and replaced. And so that's pretty nice. 2 other projects that directly affect us that are city council projects, money being transferred to us to do those, are redoing all of the islands at Recreation Park and the landscaping inside the roundabout in front of Recreation Park. So they felt like that was a need to clean those up, and it's more of a hardscape. It's taking out the trees, planting new trees, and more rock and stuff to match the front of the rack, and kind of clean all that up, especially with the expansion of the rack. So those were some projects that were given to us to do for next year as well. And a couple expansion items that were requested. Our business development coordinator was presented, and there was no opposition to that last night at this time. And also, city manager is transferring money to pay for Todd and I to attend the public administration certification program in Overland Park over the next year. That is about $4,100 per student. So he transferred $8,200 to send us to that next year. Last thing I have is tomorrow, 3 of us, Chairman Troutman, and our Economic Development Director, Jordan Lee, will be attending the 3 and 2 Light 'em Up launch program, which directly correlates with our agenda item for this evening, which is basically kind of a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new scoreboards at the 3 and 2 complex. I'll explain more on that in my agenda item here in a few minutes. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for the director? Okay, thank you, sir. We have no unfinished business, so next we'll move to new business. Action item A, as mentioned earlier, youth scoreboards lease agreement. Director, when you're ready.
Thanks, sir. So tonight, our only agenda item is we are presenting an unusual item, which is something that we haven't really ever done as a park board. Very seldom does the city council do lease agreements, so it's taken a while to go through the process and vet it and make sure that it's something that is valuable to the city and especially the Parks Department. After a lot of conversation, several meetings working through this, bringing it to the park board in the last work session, we're happy to bring this lease agreement with Youth Scoreboards LLC. And what this is, it's a 10-year lease where we are leasing property to Youth Scoreboards, and in exchange we provide, or they provide 4 scoreboards for the 4 big fields at Recreation Park. And our only obligation really for that, once the lease is done, is we have to provide electrical service to that area. They'll provide the stands, they'll install everything as long as we have power, and they have the site, which is typically a 10 by 20 foot square area in the, outside of the fence behind each field. And so we've worked through that process. It's a 10-year lease agreement. They're actually paying us, it's $1 per year, so it's a $10 lease for us, making a little money there on that program. And the main thing within my staff report is, there's 5 main things, is the facility provides the electric, which is what I've talked about already. The scoreboard, they lease property and then they put their scoreboards. They're not our scoreboards, which is kind of the catch, is we do not own the scoreboards. But they put them out there, and the plan is that they go out and they solicit sponsorships and sell advertising space on those boards. And Member Mapes had an excellent question to me, because one of the pictures he saw had like physical advertising space around the board. It's not going to be that. It's a digital screen. All the advertisements are digital, so it's like between innings. They run 8 and 20-second ads between innings. Between batters, they'll pop up and throw 4 and 5-second ads between batters. So they're taking use of the scoreboards within the game itself. And then there is a revenue sharing. So once they've recuperated their annual cost to purchase the scoreboards and operate them, we get a check cut to us, our department, at the end of the year for 25% or with whatever is in the lease agreement of that revenue that they make above and beyond their annual cost. Once the scoreboards are completely paid for, we get that increases. Obviously, the percentage stays the same, but the amount changes. And then it's up to them to make any changes on the scoreboards, upgrade them, swap them out. That's all on them. We do also have the opportunity, any leads or any companies that we provide them, and they are able to kind of write a contract or seal a deal for advertising space, we get additional revenue for that. So if we have somebody here in town that we have the contact for and we make that connection, it's almost like a finder's fee in a way. But seems to be a very good program. It's in Oklahoma and Texas currently. They are branching out into the Kansas, Missouri, and Arkansas areas. 3-2 baseball league in Lenexa is the first complex in Kansas to have enlisted this, and this is where we're going there tomorrow for the grand opening. And if our process continues forward, we will be the first municipality in the state of Missouri to have engaged in this as well. A couple more things about this is scoreboards at Recreation Park was an identified project for our long-term CIP in FY26. And we had $50,000 budgeted or earmarked for that project. And then in our park foundation, our community foundation, back when the RYAA, the original baseball group, disbanded and basically gave the city the baseball program their funds, they designated and donated those funds to certain improvements and stuff. $13,511 was specifically designated towards scoreboards, purchase of scoreboards. So we will use that money for the installation of the electric. Last month, you approved a budget amendment that we would be able to transfer money out of our fund balance to supplement the rest of that. Our first quote was $28,500 for the electric work, so we'll know we'll have to do a little more. Given that it's over our $10,000 limit, and that process, we were notified today, city manager wants us to bid that process out, not just quote it. So, I mean, it does stall the project a little bit, but it is also our city code, so it's not a big thing for us. We were hoping to be able to use our or our electric contract, and it doesn't work. It's too much money. So we're working on an RFP. So the electric work will go out to RFP. We will go in tomorrow to, after tonight, if this is something you guys want to do, we'll go to the youth scoreboard event tomorrow. I'll have a contract that they preliminarily sign, and then from there, what we will do is take this whole program to the city council in work session, because they've not seen any of this. We're doing like all the prep work. So on September 18th, we will take this to the city council in work session. And if they give the blessing and like this program, it immediately goes to the city council. So by October, all of this work should be done, and we're installing scoreboards by the end of October. What we would like to do is hopefully have like the championship adult softball tournament at the end of October, 1st of November. It'd be really cool to be able to display the scoreboards in that season and have everything ready to go for the beginning of next spring. That is the whole program in a nutshell. I know that was quite a bit. Am I missing anything, guys? So the reason for going to the city council for work session instead of immediately into first, second read is that last night they just saw the budget, and the budget has scoreboards budgeted for 2 years from now. And I immediately asked him within 24 hours, hey, I need to change our whole program, because of this. So city manager and I decided it'd probably be best to go in, explain the program, show them how much money it's saving. It's taking this whole project off of the CIP program, and give them a little more time to kind of see the program and see what we're doing, since we're literally asking them to change a budget that they haven't even approved yet. So that was the reason behind kind of the delay on that. And so what we're asking for tonight is basically the park board's recommendation, accept our recommendation to approve this lease, and then it will sit idle for a little bit until we get some of the backup work done, and then go to city council. In the meantime, what we will do is we want to bid out that electric work, because it's not in vain. Even if this doesn't happen, we have to have those scoreboards for 2 years from now when we do our own projects, so we'll just get it done and have it ready to go. So that concludes staff report, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the director? Bill?
As director, for clarification, this will be a lease without purchase, right?
Lease without purchase.
All right, I noticed also that if they replace a scoreboard where cost exceeds 50% or greater, the release is renewed at a 10-year interval, right?
Yes, sir.
All right,
According to the
Michael.
lease, the agreement, yes.
Would that also be under an insurance claim? For example, we're maintaining insurance on those boards if there's in turn replacing it.
Their insurance covers the boards.
Right, but I mean, does that renew the lease again?
Does it renew the lease?
In other words, does the 10 years, let's say they're damaged in a hailstorm.
Understood. And they have to replace them due to act of God or anything like that. Does the lease start over at that point? I don't know that answer yet, but
Okay.
I will find that out, and we can report back or make sure that that's listed in the lease.
All right, because I know the revenue sharing starts after they recoup their cost.
The way I understand it, and the way Steve understood it, is if it's damaged and they repair it, the lease is intact. If it's a replacement and it's a brand-new unit, then the lease would start over at another 10-year.
Regardless if it's at insurance expense.
That, I don't think that has any bearings whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
But I can clarify that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Dan?
What kind of restrictions do we have on types of ads that can be on these screens?
Okay, so within the lease agreement, I believe it is, hold on just a second. There's a list of what they would allow and not allow. You guys remember?
He basically said their restrictions are probably more strict than what ours are for the city.
They are. We have our own policy, and we brought that to the Park Board and Work Session a couple meetings ago, which was a list of different companies that we wouldn't put names on sports or allow to sponsor leagues and stuff. Ours is pretty specific. Theirs is more generic, but more strict than what ours are. So the two-part process would allow very family-friendly main business things. I mean, it goes through a pretty decent vetting system, and it's actually listed. Okay, so on page 3 of the lease, under Article 5, advertising, 5.1, it talks about they won't do anything for alcohol, tobacco-related, marijuana-related projects. Everything has to be pre-approved by them and vetted through our own policy, which goes into firearms, adult content, things like that. So there's very little leeway for anything that's outside of being family-friendly to make it on the boards.
Okay, and then does the city of Raymore have any advertising opportunities on this board as well?
Yes, for the most part, they're there to make money, so they want to capitalize as much space as they can. That's why we have the opportunity to give them any advertising and make that share, cost share, but then they will give us a certain allotment of time to do our own advertising for our own programs or anything like that. So say, as an example, Big Green is one of our major sponsors over our soccer complex. They want to do something a little more. We can offer that advertising space to Big Green as part of ours and pass that on. So we do have some opportunity to do it. We do not have full control of the entire program. That's theirs.
If we had an event we wanted to advertise, we have
Yes.
the opportunity to do that for our own events for the city.
Yes.
I guess that's what I was asking. Okay, great, that's all.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I wasn't following you on event stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah, and you weren't there, Dan, but one of the things we talked about is like if we have touch a truck or movie night, can we have some space to flash those up there, which is a great idea. Do we know, and if we don't, we probably want to add it to the list that Bill had. Do we know if, so extracurricular events that are not normal, are they automatically engaged? That's their advertising. So let's say we get a big softball sponsor or a big softball tournament and they want to bring in some sponsors that they've told them, hey, we're going to put this on the scoreboard. Is that not an option, or do they have to get all that through them before they can use that?
I would say it like this, if a company that's coming in running softball tournaments, they come out, check out our fields, and then they sign the rental agreement for our fields, and they want access to those boards to do their own, we would put them in contact with these scoreboards. We would get a share of that revenue that they would sell for that, but the ability to negotiate a kind of a three-way deal where we're getting a break on the rental in exchange for that, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we'd get a decent-sized tournament as we're growing this, and Johnny's Tavern wants their name constantly flashed.
That's between Johnny's
Okay,
and
perfect.
scoreboards. However, we will say one of the reasons why the three of us are so intent on doing this is the lack of scoreboards continues to come up when we're meeting with these tournament groups saying, why is our complex not one of your top? And one of the things in that, a scoreboard installation is something that is within our control. What's not in our control is the size and distance of the fields. We can't help that. The scoreboards are, and they continue to tell us if you had scoreboards, it would make a big difference on that. So that's one of the reasons why this whole program, when we first, then they approached us to do it, just seemed very attractive in terms of trying to get that done, especially since we already had it budgeted for a
Right.
future program.
And if you know anything about scoreboards, they're, like everything else, technology is moving quickly, and nothing's worse than having a scoreboard in 10 years from now.
Yep.
We can, if we decide to re-up it, we have better technology that they're bringing in at all times, which would have cost us an arm and a leg, so.
That leads me to two last things to make sure, just for public record, we have it, is Within the lease, there is an out clause for both the city and for youth scoreboards. If it's not profitable for them, they have the ability to get out of the lease with the right amount of notification, and vice versa. We also, if we don't like how this is working, we can also terminate the contract as well. Now, what I also was going to say is the scoreboards themselves, very much in baseball, the home team runs the home score book. So the scoreboards themselves there's a QR code at the park under the scoreboard, and you basically take your phone, you download the QR, and it downloads the app. And so the home team is running the scoreboard by their phone. When that game is over, the app, the link expires. Now they can still link up, but they can't do anything, you know. So it's all through your cell phone. It's pretty neat technology.
I might add one thing. When we were talking about changing the ads and we can do special events up there and stuff, we understand that it's going through a software department and they have all of these to do. So they said, yes, we can do special events on there, but they probably aren't going to change this every 2 days, every 3 days, something like that. So what we're thinking about is trying to do quadrants, stuff like that, you know, every 4 months type thing.
So a good example would be the Spirit of America event. That's the bulk of baseball, so that would be on there, you know, because we could advertise that from April or March when the first tournament, all the way to the last week of baseball, which is typically the week of the Spirit of America event. So that would be an event that would make sense to put up there for us.
Awesome. Okay, seeing no other questions, I will ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion, we recommend approval of this lease with youth scoreboards to the city council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Hearing a first and second, any discussion? No? We'll take it to vote then. All those in favor? Okay. Passes unanimously, 7-0. Okay, seeing no one here for public comment, we will move to board member comment. I'll start with you, Chris.
We had some trees down at the trail that got removed immediately. I'd like to thank the maintenance crew. Took those out right away. And the mud run, they did a great job of doing the mud run part of it and working with the trail people. So appreciate that.
Good, thank you, Chris. Josh?
I was at the mud run and it seemed like a successful event, so I want to thank the sponsors and you guys' staff for your hard work. Looked nice.
Thank you, Chris. Dan?
No comments today.
Okay. Ken?
I'd just like to congratulate Todd on the increase of the program attendance numbers and almost everything, apparently. So, very well done.
Thank you, Ken. Bill?
Thank you. I want to commend staff on the scoreboards. That's really a necessity. We've been overlooked, and it will come. And I know if it proves out to be a viable product, we're going to utilize that in expansion. Oh, and yes, Todd, you did a good job.
Thank you, Bill. Patrick?
Thank you for the work that you all are doing. You make us look good, and you all are out in the heat and making the phone calls and managing the events. So we appreciate that very much. Keep it up, and for the office staff as well.
Thank you, Patrick. I want to finish by saying thank you to the Optimist Club, Community Bank of Raymore, and the Parks crew for helping us pull off the mud run. I mean, every year it amazes me that it just maybe doesn't get bigger, but it gets better. You never have anybody saying, well, that's really bad. It was really bad and I don't want to go back. They're looking forward to it a day after, so that's awesome. Would like to thank City Council and the mayor and the city manager for helping us with some finances on some eyesores that we've had for a while. With never having a unending flow of money, it helps to have somebody help us fill in those gaps, so I appreciate that. Excited about the scoreboards, and then I really want to thank Mr. Rulo for knowing the temperature of the mud run. That was really something that was bothering me, and I appreciate you helping me with that. So on to that, I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Bill?
after that comment, I make a motion, we adjourn.
It is hot out there. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and second. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned.